What's good? What's good? We're back. Yours truly, one and only Paul Pickett, host of the Paul Pickett Podcast, aka Triple P, aka the Common Sense Podcast, your source for music, sports, politics, world events, and much, much more. Today, I'm going to react to a video of Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet David talking about the influence that BlackRock has. Before we get into that, though, I want to give you a word from promopalace.biz. All right, let's get into it.
Marketing and promotion? Then look no further than Promo Palace LLC, your one-stop shop for all music promotion services. Services include Spotify playlist pitching, YouTube video promotion, record pool promotion, blog placements, radio airplay promotion, SoundCloud promotion, and much more. With over 2,000 customers and over 10 years of experience in online promotion, Promo Palace LLC is a company you can trust. For more info, please go to promopalace.biz. See you there.
That's right. You heard a beautiful lady. If you need online marketing promotions, please go to promopalace.biz, your one-stop shop for all marketing promotions for your music, product, brand, or your service. All right, let's get into it. Joe Rogan, Patrick Bet David, BlackRock influence.
How much, Joe, have you looked at, Larry Fink, Soros, State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock? How much have you looked at what they're doing and what their ties are?
I've looked at it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They're pretty much running everything.
Yeah.
S&P 500, the number that 88% of the companies on S&P 500, 88% of them, the largest shareholder of those companies is either State Street, BlackRock, or Vanguard. 88% of them, okay? And then you see their influence in defense contracts, okay? So we went through it the other. I'm like, let me see if these guys, this ESG, Larry Fink, Vanguard, State Street, if they have any influence on military contract, defense contracts. If you Google the largest shareholder for Raytheon, 3 out of the 4 top shareholders of Raytheon, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. It could be top 3 with Raytheon, but I think it's 3 out of 4. If you go look up General Dynamics, if you go look up Boeing, if you go look up, Northrop Grumman, okay? And then you work backwards and you say, okay, how much money is that in what these guys are doing? You'll find the amount of money we spent in our military, $744 billion on how much we're making from defense, but you'll see some numbers saying last year it's 13% of our GDP, which is around $850 billion. That's more than the next 10 combined. We gave more money to Ukraine than Russia spent on their military last year. And when you look at these contracts, then you're like, okay, Fink is there. These guys are there. Okay, let's go look at Hollywood. Same thing you see there. Let's go look at pharmaceutical. Let's go look at this. And you're like, wait a minute. These guys essentially have a monopoly. Well, how big is BlackRock? $10 trillion. How big is $10 trillion? Only 2 countries have a bigger GDP than what BlackRock has, assets under management. U.S. and China. That's how big BlackRock is.
Bam, let me stop right there. Yeah, that seems like a monopoly. They have shares. See, I think the monopoly rule is 50%, which typically means you can't own 50% of the businesses in one specific industry. Like I'm in marketing and advertising, it means I can't own over 50% of the marketing and advertising companies. Or like Dizzle is, in the liquor business, you can't own more than 50% of the alcohol companies or whatever. So what they've done is, like every smart billionaires and trillionaires, they figured out that they can have a monopoly but have it spread out. They don't necessarily own 50% of any one industry, but they probably damn near own 49%. you know, that's crazy. And my favorite president of all time is Theodore Roosevelt, simply because he went after monopolies. And if he didn't go after monopolies, you know, I wouldn't be self-employed small business owner today. And Dizzle wouldn't be able to launch, and Dizzle wouldn't be able to get to the gummies, and we wouldn't have Dizzle apparel and New Lit apparel, and almost every industry. Because back then, every industry, Rockefeller like literally owned every oil refinery. When Theodore Roosevelt came at him, and he was the last monopoly to go down. And that's the thing. Back then, they had such a stronghold on all the industries. Nobody could come up and compete. There was no room for competition, no room for small businesses or anything of that nature, especially when you're buying them all out. Now they just figured out how to spread the wealth out across the board and pretty much still control all these industries, still have a monopoly. I mean, if you got stocks into 88% of the top of 500 companies in the SP 500, yeah, and they literally got, more, they're worth more than any other country except China and US. Yeah, that sounds like total control. Dude, we're talking about a business that's bigger than every other country except for like two.
So then they went and they started getting all these other guys to sign on and say, hey, we want you to participate with the same thing as well with ESG. And they ended up having, I think they had 31 signers. I think end of 2022, they got 60 something signers for a total of $70 trillion of assets under management that they're controlling. So now they're controlling other places. And just recently, if you saw the rebuilding of Ukraine, did you see this contract?
Let me stop again. They control the ESG funding, which is pretty much what all these businesses gotta go. They gotta, try to conform and go along with these ESG scores if they want to get this money. Which means they got to virtue signal and they got to get into identity politics and all those things that pretty much alienate half of your consumer base, no matter what business you're in. They pretty much alienate half your consumer base. This is crazy, man. Like, and I never knew before. I knew before he said this because I think he said somebody else said it. Maybe he said it on a Patrick Bet David said it on his own podcast that BlackRock controls the ESG's funding, and that's crazy because they're actually the company that could be your landlord and raise your rent, and then they could be your employer, and they don't give you no raise. So there's that, and they control the ESG funding, and they got military contracts, pharmaceuticals, all the stuff that is the biggest, shadiest businesses. Pharmaceuticals, shady business. Military industrial complex, shady business. They're into definitely all the shady business. And then I heard a thing about um, I don't know if they own record labels or whatnot too, but I heard a thing about the record labels owning the prisons or having stocks in their prisons, and I'm like, wow, that's some scary shit.
Rebuilding of Ukraine, $400 billion contract. BlackRock and Chase is helping rebuild Ukraine. And then, okay, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what the hell is going on here? They have that much control to get everybody to do what they want them to do? Yes. So Dylan Mulvaney, who cares? Why? Bud Light. How does that tie up?
Yeah, so I remember like I did a video and I said something about I didn't vote because people always, I didn't vote for president because people always like, you got to vote for the lesser evil, and I'm like, well, if I think both of them motherfuckers are evil, I'm gonna vote. How about I vote for none of them evil motherfuckers? Well, he just he just proved it when somebody said, well, everything you said, it doesn't mean shit now because you didn't vote. Well, it doesn't matter if I vote. Y'all the jackasses out there thinking that your vote is gonna fucking matter, thinking the president actually isn't a puppet on the strings, and that all these presidents are a puppet on the strings. And I think, and to be honest with you, I almost feel like Donald Trump wasn't so much a puppet. And maybe that's why they're going after him so much. They hate him so much. They're attacking him so much. They want to take him down so bad because he might not necessarily be a full on puppet on the strings. He might have a string here or a string there, you know, but like these presidents are like full puppets on strings. Every motion that they, do is being ran by somebody else. Like Biden is not running this country. Anybody thinks that's delusional. They're delusional as hell. They're delusional as hell. And I almost feel like Clinton might not have been so much a puppet on the strings because he wasn't a big war guy. He was a draft dodger. We know um, JFK wasn't a puppet on the strings, at least not their puppet. You know, rumor is he was going to try to dismantle the CIA, which, shit, you know what I would have said to that? Two thumbs up. Cisco and Ebert gives that two thumbs up. Dismantle the CIA, yeah, get rid of them corrupt motherfuckers. FBI, another corrupt organization. But yeah, so just so you heard it from Patrick Bet David, Black Rock running the show. It didn't matter if I didn't vote or not. This I did it. My one little vote was gonna fucking make a difference when Black Rock and Vanguard and State Street. I couldn't remember their name the other day for my life to save me, man. State Street. Like these motherfuckers are running the show, man.
You got the DEI, the HRC, the human rights, and all this stuff. And then you go even deeper, which is even the crazier part with, the education, schools. Like, the biggest union we have in America, I think it's National Education something. NEA is the largest union we have. 3 million teachers are part of that union. And you look at that and you go deeper in that with open society and who's funding it, who's the money behind these organizations. Comes back, Soros. How do you feel about the kind of power they have right now to fight against them? Because this isn't like a billionaire can come out and say, I'm going to go up against these guys. They don't have a little bit of money. A billionaire to these guys is nothing. They got the kind of control that can make companies fire boards. They can replace CEOs. They can replace leaders if they don't like. They have their hands so much into it where many times when people say the people of power, I'm kind of like, who are the people of power? Are you convinced these guys are really running the world? Or what do you think about what some of these bigger companies are doing, like State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock?
Well, they certainly have massive amounts of influence. What do you think they're doing?
It's the question is, how do you fight it? Like, for example, the way we fight mainstream is by what? The show that we do. And we have to be patient. It's going to take 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years. Now you have some influence, right? Okay, we can fight. There is an actual strategy on how to fight that.
All right, but when we fought them before, it was because of Theodore Roosevelt. Like, this is pretty much like the Rockefeller, Carnegie, Morgan, monopoly, hold and grasp. Again, of course, those guys, they actually built industry, from ground up. So you can understand why, they had a grasp on things. And the story goes that Rockefeller, Carnegie, Morgan, and them bought a president, which was William McKinley. And they they bought the president, William McKinley, because they didn't want Theodore Roosevelt to become president. They knew Theodore Roosevelt, he wasn't a friend to them. He was their enemy. So they bought William McKinley as a president. ran him as a president, and had him intentionally put Theodore Roosevelt as vice president. Now, back then, they said that's where all politicians went to die, was like a vice president. And like, it ain't like now vice presidents run for president and could actually get elected. Back then, that's where politicians went to die. Now, second term, William McKinley got elected in, same vice president, Theodore Roosevelt, and except this time, somebody assassinates William McKinley. Good for them. Theodore Roosevelt becomes president. Instantly goes after the monopolies. And like I said before, last monopoly he took down was Rockefeller's, because Rockefeller basically just started traveling the world and avoiding subpoenas. But he went after everybody else before that and shut down the monopolies. I'm guessing the monopoly rule of 50% is Theodore Roosevelt's doing, and he's always been my favorite president, because I wouldn't be self-employed today if it wasn't for Theodore Roosevelt. But now we're back in that same position, and we don't necessarily got a Theodore Roosevelt. And even if we did, I don't know, like, the way politics is nowadays, politics is more dirtier than ever. Politics is more divisive than ever. I don't see any politician in power, and he was talking about billionaires. Definitely, you're going to need multiple other trillionaires. It probably would take somebody like an Elon and a Bezos and a Zuckerberg teaming up or something, something like that. Maybe these tech guys teaming up, because tech guys do have a grasp over the world too. They have major influence over people's lives and thoughts and emotions and all that. Let's get back into some more of this stuff.
No problem. You got a kid in school who's a bully. He's bigger than you. He keeps bullying you. You have a strategy on how to beat the guy. You take a year, jiu-jitsu 2 years, this, that. Boom. One fight, he knows, I'm never going to touch Joe again. Screw this thing. I'm not doing this no more, right? There is a play to it. When you have this much, Joe, 88% of S&P 500 companies, that is a form of a monopoly. If I'm a president,
it is.
Whether it's a Trump or whoever else goes out there and does it, our monopoly law in America is 50%. They say 50%. Like if you tie and said, at what point is it 50%? I've done calls with the FTC. Like we had one of our guys' technology we were using. The FTC called and said, hey, we want to have a call with you because they're thinking about buying this other technology company and we're worried it's going to be a monopoly. So we had the call, okay? At the end of the call.
And let me chime in, stop real quick again too. I always used to say, hey, Google has a monopoly. You got the top 2 search engines, YouTube and Google, But there's hundreds of other search engines, so they don't own 50% of the search engines. They just own the top 2. That was all. Facebook got a monopoly. They got top 2 social media sites, Facebook and Instagram. At least when they first bought Instagram, monopoly. WhatsApp, monopoly. But they don't own 50%. They just own the top 2. But I almost feel like owning the top 2 is a monopoly, because nobody. If you own the top 2, it's like nobody really below has a chance to compete. Unless you fuck up like Bud Light and you alienate, 33, 25, 30% of your consumer base, and Coors Light and somebody else just, takes over the spot just because you fucked up, But unless that happens, like Bud Light would have literally been the number 1 shitty horse piss of a beer, for probably the next 10, 20 years, had they not did what they did. But why would you want to drink that any horse piss of a beer when you could drink Dizzle? All right, let's get back into it.
With us, with a bunch of different people, we said we love their product, we love their product. That deal didn't end up happening, okay? The monopoly law. Some of these guys are influencing it. But they say 50% is a monopoly law. Do you know how many people in America have an iPhone versus Droid? Do you know what the numbers, market shares in America with iPhones?
I think it's like 60.
58%, 60%. That
That's a
is
monopoly.
already a monopoly.
That's a
But who's
monopoly.
knocking on the door of Apple? Tim Cook saying, hey, Tim, you got 58%. That's breaking the monopoly law. Nobody is. I think someone's got to break apart. You know, in 1993,
I think that's a little different though. It's like just because 58% people chose to buy this phone over that phone, yeah, you got a monopoly, but it wasn't like you owned, you bought 50% of cell phone companies. It wasn't like that, or over 50% of cell phone companies. Like consumers choosing to buy your product 50% more than the rest, that's an organic monopoly. Like something like that, I don't think should never be touched. As far as what he said with the cell phones. Now, if they owned, over 50% of the cell phone companies, then yeah, that's different. But just because I put out a better product than you, and 58% people buy my product, and the other percentage is divided amongst other products. Hey, you got to put out a better product.
I don't know which senator it was. These guys that were trying to get the defense contractors to be better at the pricing, what they were charging, because they were overcharging DOD, and DOD people don't know what the hell is going on. They're like, yeah, okay, how much? $68 million do it. $1.2 billion do it. I'm not going to over-negotiate the money. They took 51 defense companies, and they brought it down to only 5. It's only 5 companies right now when you want to buy anything. Think about that. So defense contractors is 5. We know how these guys make money. Earlier, I was asking you a question, why do you think vaccine? And you're like, Pat, that's how they make their money, right? I mean, if you and I run a hotel, rooms are empty, we're not making money. We need people to stay in the rooms. If you and I are running a hospital, we need people on the beds to make money.
Yeah.
If there's no people on the beds, we ain't making money. If these 5 contractors are fighting for $744 billion, what do they want more of? Wars. They want more people dying. You know the Papa John's saying, better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. Mm-hmm. These guys is more wars, more people dying, more profits, defense contractors, right?
Think about that. I mean, there's people that literally profit off of death. I mean, shit, the damn cemeteries and the morgue and the mortuaries profit off of death, like you said, the hospitals, they want people to get in car accidents and things of that nature, and they want them to be fucked up and have to come and go to the hospital. Like this idea, you're making money off of bad shit happening to people, man. I don't know that I could live with myself. I don't know that I could live with myself. And even though like I promote Dizzle and alcohol, yes, alcohol can kill you. It can kill you. But we don't wish that people die from alcohol, or we don't wish that people get alcohol poison or anything of that nature. We need people to stay alive so they can keep drinking Dizzle, or keep getting the Dizzle gummies, or keep buying the Dizzle gear. Like, damn, man. I mean, just wow. Profiting off of death. I couldn't live with myself, man. My conscience wouldn't be right.
That's a valid concern that I have. Because behind closed doors, this whole military industrial complex, when you look at the numbers, whoever becomes the president, unfortunately, this guy's an anti-establishment president. Good. Unfortunately, if you're an anti-establishment president, everyone's going to come after you, especially these military defense contractors. So if a president got up and said, if I'm going to be the president, here's what we're going to be doing. We have to look at all the contracts. You can't overcharge us. We have to open it up. You have to sell some of your companies. You have to let them be independent again. You have to do this. You have to let them go public, separate, whatever way you got to break them apart to have competition again, because we don't have that today.
It won't work. As soon as the president did that, they probably assassinate him. you know. And who knows that JFK wasn't even going further with that, with the monopolies and things of that nature, because that's all they did is Theodore Roosevelt did the 50% rule, so they just figured, hey, well, you know what? We'll spread it out across the board, and we'll still have control. We'll still have a monopoly. We're good to go.
So that is a major concern where we say we have a commander-in-chief, but really the commander-in-chief is Larry Fink today. The guy running BlackRock is really the president of the United States. If we look at the kind of influence he's got in every industry, Joe. And he's like.
And so, once again, you people that comment, well, you didn't vote, your opinion doesn't matter. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter if I vote who I vote for, if BlackRock or Vanguard or some private owned company is running the fucking show.
Well, I kind of feel bad. I'm ashamed that all the weaponization, the word, ESG is being used and all this other stuff. And Elon tweeted about the ESG. I don't know if you remember when Elon tweeted about ESG, saying the S in ESG is satanic. Okay? So this is a part where even a Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's partner, says, look, I love Larry Fink, but I'm not interested in having an emperor. Some words like that he said about Larry Fink. So this motive, and by the way, Larry Fink is an interesting guy because he majored in college political science. His aspirations was politics. He accidentally got into money and he learned to trade, and then he lost $100 million at 36 years old, I think, and then he teams up with Schwartzman and they start this company, and after a couple years, they got $5 billion under management, $8 billion and $32 billion. And then they have a difference because, he wants to give equity and Jamie's, Schwartzman's like, no, and then they separate. But influence of politics, you get into business, you're a billionaire. It's you, Soros. So I'm extremely concerned about what these guys are up to. And we think our president is the most powerful person. That person's not. Because behind closed doors, they're going to be like, look, guys, let's relax. That guy's only going to be there for 4 to 8 years. We're going to be all right. He'll be out. We're running the world. We're okay. We were running America, but now we're running the world. We control all the ETFs in America. We're controlling all this stuff. Everyone has to come through us, and we can tell everybody what to do because everybody fears not getting money from us, from being downgraded. A Tesla on ESG score is nothing, but a Philip Morris gets an A rating. How the hell the company that's Philip Morris has a better environmental social governance score, DEI, not DEI, but the CEI, the score they give it over Tesla. So they can bully some of these guys.
Let me ask you this. What do you think the goal of ESG is? Why do you think they're establishing these sort of parameters? Like why is ESG a thing, and what's the benefit of it for them?
So Schultz said something very interesting. Schultz says, look, these guys are driven by money. They're not going to do anything to destroy an economy to lose their own money because they want that. I said, okay, it's a very good, Andrew Schultz. I said, that's a very good point, on what you're saying. Fine.
I agree with that.
So, you know how sometimes Michael Jackson, you see the interview with him with kids. Oh, they're just sleeping in the bed. That's all it is. And we're just having a great time and we're storytelling. And they're like, yeah, bro, I get it. It's a little weird. You got a 7, 8-year-old, 10-year-old kid sleeping in your bed and, all this stuff. And it's a little bit fishy what you're talking about here. It's not normal. Well, if you're in Hollywood and you've slept with as many people as these people sleep, and then eventually you have to have other options because what else do you do? You have to try new things. How many threesomes have you had? How many this? How many that? So you start trying all these other things, and sometimes these guys go to such and such place. Doesn't matter. It's kind of weird and fishy, right, on what you want to do. Great. Okay. So why are these guys doing what they're doing? You have all the money in the world. You live in $100 million house. Not you, Larry Fink and some of these guys. I don't know if he lives in a $100 million house, but you got the money to live in $100 million. What else do you need?
Right.
You got nice cars. Jamie Dimon's got a $900 million art collection, according to an article. It's a nice art collection, right? You go to all the nice restaurants. You meet prime ministers. You meet presidents. And then maybe there comes a time when you're looking at a couple of these guys, they're presidents and prime ministers, and you tell yourself, I'd be a better president than you, bro. How the hell am I not reading the country or they tell themselves, you think you're a president? You're not a president. You work for me.
Bam. Ego. Either way. Ego either way. Um yeah, I worked for the first job I ever worked for was a guy that owned 7 McDonald's, and I literally lost my apartment and my job in the same sentence. And that's really what this BlackRock thing is kind of like. Now, just one thing about me losing my job and my apartment in the same sentence, to this day, I almost feel like my friend who, well, he was my friend at the time, whose father was the owner of the 7 McDonald's, um, fired him, and he told me that we both got fired. Now, to this day, I still think, I still have a strong feeling that I never really got fired. That he got fired and he took me down with him because he was stealing from his dad and whatnot, But that's what it's like, though. Like, my landlord was my boss, and I lost my apartment and my job in the same sentence. And I don't know if I was lied to that I was fired because, the owner never told me, nobody physically told me I was fired except the person who got fired. And at that time, I wasn't thinking about it. I was young. I didn't put two and two together. I'm like, well, hold up. Nobody told me, like, none of the managers told me I was fired. None of the owners told me I was fired. A person who got fired told me I was fired. So to this day, I feel like he took me down. My boss. So, if he fires me, then I'm pretty much, I, I'm screwed. He could just tell me get out too. You know what I'm saying? You got 30, you're fired. You got 30 days to move out. Da 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 da. And I had to deal with a century, $400 a month, all my rent and bills included. And that's what my friend at the time ruined for me at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I to this day I still say and feel like I'm supposed to own a McDonald's. But instead, I do music promotion. I do promotion for Dizzle and our podcast, and I got New Little Apparel. And I'm a man of many hats, man of many hats. But yeah, like you talking about total control, and all y'all people running out, going and voting. You just, regardless of who you vote for, unless they're going after Vanguard and BlackRock and State Street. I think he said it was. Like, those are the cats gonna be running the show. Those are the cats gonna be calling the shots. So the person you vote for is just a puppet. So you want to shit talk me and talk about I didn't vote for a puppet? Well, it's because I don't vote for puppets. I have more common sense and common knowledge than vote for a puppet. Why would I vote for any politician that somebody else is controlling? That's not actually going to um, try to accomplish and pass some kind of law or something that's for my agenda, something that benefits me as a small business owner, you know? And it really doesn't make sense for you to vote past local, anyways, past your city councilman and your mayor and things of that nature. That's the only thing that's really going to affect you personally is the local politics more than anything, you know. So once again, I want to thank y'all for tuning in Paul Pickett Podcast, and I'm out.